Hi, I'm Madonna, and we're going to do an MCAS balance and have a bit of a chat about mast cell activation syndrome throughout this kinesiology session, because it's been something I've been working with clients for a couple of months, and lots of things are showing up, and we're sort of working with supplements that help to draw out of the body excess histamines that are built up in certain tissues of the body. So let's see how we go. So the thing about mast cell activation syndrome is that histamines can build up in certain tissues of the body, mainly the brain, the spine, the gut, and for women, yay, the uterus. So I don't know what the equivalent for men would be. I suppose they don't do anything to shed anything once a month that needs healing regularly. So maybe there's not an equivalent. But it's, yeah. So because it's an immune system function, I'm going to go in through the immune system master points. So firstly, we'll just check them in the clear. So that's checking the master points plus the thymus gland and the thymus chakra. And hold, 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 and hold. Now from a bizarre perspective, I'm going to check the emotional gear that messes with the immune system. So in some of us, hold, the immune system starts falling apart when we're stressed. Not this little black duck. So once they unlock, it's tappa, tappa, tappa. So basically the tapping is like with acupuncture needles, it's giving them a little wiggle. It's waking up those meridian points and sort of trying to get the body to go, okay, maybe I can keep my immune system up and running even if I am being attacked by a tiger. Maybe. Because what I've also been doing is checking foods. There's an antihistamine list of foods, because there's lots of good foods that have histamine in them, like things like fermented foods, yogurt, sauerkrauts, lots of aged cheeses. Yum. Anyway, so lots of stuff that, nuts, chocolate.
No.
No.
I don't believe it. Must depend on the brand.
So, well, funnily enough, with one of my guys in this week, whose MCAS had been triggered with a major operation. So that's when you can imagine histamines going into the area to help it all heal. And since then, like he was like 90% of the symptoms, you know, of MCAS. So he like heaps of tachycardia, dizziness when he lies down, lots of things like just pain, even though medical tests aren't showing up, lots of headaches, lots of dizziness, yes, lots of stuff. Okay, so that was with the emotional gear. And again, hold, hold, and hold. Beautiful. So now I'll just make sure there's no organs that need picking up in the clear, so I'll use the alarm points for those. Anything particularly going on at the moment? Things are pretty good? Yeah, nice. Now these are all locking nicely. Okay. So the number one thing about MCAS, mast cell activation syndrome, is that once we hit this spot, the histamine that's being released all the time, yes, as a result of allergies, asthma, hay fever, eczema, dermatitis, anything basically that causes an allergies will release histamine. Then, of course, the normal medical treatment is taking antihistamines, but of course the histamine can stay in the body. You don't take antihistamines, I assume? No. From the natural perspective, there's lots of things that do similar things. So our clients tend to choose to do things that are more naturally balancing the T helper 1, 2, 3, and 17. It's a nice and subtle way of saying it, isn't it?
And the mast cells.
And the mast cells. So what we're going to check now is the histamine. So let's just ask in relation to histamine in general. Because then there's 4 types. Hold. Okay. Hold. Now you can imagine, because histamine is a natural thing in the body, quite often the immune system simply has no program to deal with it because it's meant to be there. And I find this is one of the things with a lot of our current medical issues that are huge. The poor little immune system just runs out of, it doesn't know what it's doing. Yeah, so histamine. The immune system doesn't have a protocol to it, and the little spot up next to the ear is an energy mismatch point, which means it doesn't know whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. It really, yeah, the immune system just doesn't know what to do with it. And of course, it can be a bit of both. Little column A, little column B. We must look into naturopath and see whether they've got a histamine test. I mean, I don't think we need it because we can use Kinesi, but just in someone.
I saw it.
Yeah, right.
I was looking at it the other day. So there's things like bananas or mangoes, high in histamine.
Don't know. I don't know the list that well yet. I've been muscle testing more individually.
I'll have a look at it. Just because I get really congested with them.
Yeah, right.
And,
Yep. Histamine. Hold. Now I'm going to check each of the different types of histamine, H1, H2, H3, H4. So firstly, actually no, because we've got histamine online, I'll do the emotional gear with that as well. So basically there's finger modes that sort of give us all sorts of quick little bits of data. Okay. So the emotional gear makes the histamine issue worse, or at least it's adding to the equation.
Would it be the other way around as well? Have a flare up from the histamine and feel emotional?
Oh, absolutely. Histamine weakens whatever tissue it's attached to. So if you have, say, a sinus flare or a hay fever flare, you're going to be weakening the tissue up there so then anything can get into the brain. So there's been a lot of links to depression and anxiety, and they're thinking dementia long term, but there's only been 10 years of research so far. So it's fairly new. But you know, that's been one of the things I've been saying for 20 years, that quite often people come in, I'm thinking more cancer, they say, you know, people who do take the antihistamines all the time, and they say, oh, I've been really healthy all my life, and then once I start going through a history, quite often they've had hay fever sinus for 20 years, and I go, well, what do you do for it? They take antihistamines. And then they've got cancer. Because the histamine side of things is about the elevated T helper 2 cells, of course, whereas to fight cancer you need, you know, lots of T helper 1 cells, and they're two different sides of the jigsaw, or the seesaw. Jigsaw. Part of the puzzle. So yeah, and I've been wondering, you know, because stress is so damaging to the body, even though we're sort of unaware of it, that might actually increase the histamine to the area. You know, like when you're running on adrenaline, and some people run on adrenaline and then they get real fatigue afterwards, or
As in the adrenaline and high cortisol levels prevent the histamine to break down, perhaps?
I don't know what the mechanism is yet. And once again, I'm not sure why. I was doing some Googling the other day, and there are certain foods that are supposed to absolutely break down histamine, and there's certain genes that block those receptors, so that it makes it harder. Yeah, of course. So now in relation to H1. Hold. No, it's not your nemesis. H2. Hold. Aha. Okay. For a start, you're a histamine 2 girl. Once again, I don't actually know which things these all connect to at this point. I've got a chart, but it hasn't been logged into my brain fully yet. But what I'm finding is that once I stack it in, then I check all the body organs and see which organs have these histamines built up in them, and then start getting those organs to recognize the histamine so they can start releasing it, and then check what supplements we need to release it as well. And you can imagine the main sort of supplements, probably vitamin C and N-acetylcysteine have been the two biggest ones. Fish oils with the occasional person. It's not really the zeolite sort of stuff, like it doesn't seem to be that.
What about herbs?
I haven't played around with herbs with it yet.
What about holy basil?
Yeah, right.
Just because it's got a mild astringent effect.
Yeah.
And so really like clearing for the
Yeah.
sinuses.
I wonder if that helps pull fibrin off the capillaries as well.
I've got a feeling it does a lot. Yeah.
Well, it tests up a lot, doesn't it? H2. Hold. Well, I suppose I could muscle test herbs and sort of see which ones show up.
I reckon elderflower.
Yeah, right.
Brachial skullcap.
H3. Okay, so you're a H2, H3 girl. Body knows what this one is, though. It's the first one so far. Yay!
I just can't do it.
Just has no protocol for it. Yeah, I shared on our New Leaf Facebook site a interview with Dr. Tanya Dempsey from New York last night. She's been working with, her main things are chronic fatigue, Lyme disease and MCAS, probably her biggies. Oh, and SIRS, you know.
Yeah.
So that's sort of cheeky bad. Okay, H3. And H4. Yeah, okay. Okay, you're a 2, 3, 4 girl. And your body knows about that one as well. Just not the protocol to deal with it.
So, the emotional stuff with all of them as well?
Yeah, so I've been stacking in the survival stuff once I get them all in as well. Yeah, it's becoming quite a big balance. Yeah. Celestial circuit hasn't really been showing as a key thing, but you know, everyone's different. So we've got them all stacked in. So now let's check your adrenals. Okay, and hold, survival switching, hold, deep survival switching, hold, hidden deep survival, hold, aha.
Had to be something. Try as I might to deny it.
Well, it's this sensory stress. So I suppose when we're getting blocked and that sort of thing, and also pain, like histamine's about pain, unexplained pain. So when your nervous system gets to that spot of, holy moly, I've got another headache, or holy moly, I've got more gut pain, or I've got more uterine pain, or I've got, you know, it's just not a lot of fun. So I can imagine the nervous system would go, why? Yeah, so this is the periventricular survival system, which is about sensory input overload.
So when I give balances?
Yeah, right. Do you get overloaded?
Well, I get runny nose.
Really?
I always blamed it on the aircon.
Huh.
But it's happened when the aircon hasn't been running. So
Interesting.
Yeah. So then I think it's a protective because people take their shoes off, like I can't smell anything, so that's great. But
There's a, you know, because there's a flower essence for the sinuses, which is very much about is it Devil's Claw? Which is very much about, just thinking, maybe resentment of building up other people's stuff, you know, or letting it catch on or something. Anyway.
Oh, maybe I'm trying not to take it home.
Yeah, right. So the first little area showing up in here is the Anterior Cingulate Gyrus. Hold out. And that's the one where things end up setting up our OCDs and intolerances around stuff. So when we say get sinuses, and then you have to be vigilant, you know, about anything that's going to set off our sinuses, so we can become a bit OCD. Or if we, like I had a lady in last week, and as soon as she walked in the front door, her sinuses started blocking, and she started complaining about the essential oils out the front. And I said, well, you know, they're 100% essential oils. We never use fragrances. And she said, oh, you know, I wouldn't play out with this. And anyway, so she did. And once we were in here when I don't have them burning, she was fine after about 10 minutes. But it was interesting how quickly it affected her.
Yeah, right.
It's a bummer being sensitive. Yeah, but Anterior Cingulate Gyrus also, because we've been naturopaths for so long, I sort of also think there's that part of us that wants to be perfect, you know, so we're trying to sort of work on our health all the time. So when something keeps going on, you know.
Yeah, it is. It's frustrating.
It's a bit of a frustration when you go,
And I think it goes the other way too, because I've had in the past with people go, you're a naturopath, you're not supposed to have a cold. Like it's projected upon us to be.
Yeah, right. Or a glass of wine or a coffee.
Yeah, I know that's.
Or a chocolate. Yeah.
Yeah, they obviously don't know me.
Yeah. Well, so this one is the subcostal gyrus. So, and once again, just thinking about these little areas, because we've always known the PVSS had that how we deal with stress for up to 7 generations, you know, in the DNA. So the research, you know, by that Dr. Pamela Peake, she was talking about any trauma in any childhood can then affect the genes for up to 7 generations afterwards. And I'm sure...
Did she say 7 generations?
She said 7, and that's what they found with the mice. I know, and then I thought maybe that's where Charles got that information from, because I first got it from Charles.
Yeah, right.
But I've often found that over the years. I go to kinesiology courses and then the science sort of catches up, yeah. Or maybe, but Charles has always said he's working in there with the top researchers. Like he's always said that that's part of his thing. But he was working with spindle cells for about 5 years before they even had a name. No, not spindle cells. Glial cells. He was working with glial cells for about 5 years before they even had a name.
Yeah, right. As in the kinesiology side?
Yeah, because the glial cells showed up in pictures of the brain as a black spot. And he used to go, there's no black holes in the brain. It has to be something. And they'd go, well, that's where there's nothing. Go, there can't be nothing in the brain.
Yeah, that's fair.
And then Jackie would do the same thing. She'd find, you know, that these little black spots would show up, and she'd say to Charles, well, what are these black things? And he goes, I don't know, but they seem to be doing something. And she said, yeah, I know. They seem to be messing with people. So this is a reticular activating system. So the histamines seem to be releasing, once again, not sure chicken or the egg, which one comes first, but noradrenaline and vigilance. And you can imagine, okay, so if we're thinking about histamine being a healing agent, I suppose if we're stressed, we're also probably going to get either the spikes of blood pressure or the spikes of insulin or something like that. Insulin can damage the capillaries, so maybe histamine would be released to go along and heal the capillaries, because the capillaries are somewhere that, you know, really is affected by MCAS. So actually the lady who interviewed me on the radio this morning, she... since an operation 2 years ago, every time she stands up, she's been hospitalised 76 times since an operation 2 years ago, and she's on 18 medications. And so it's just like...
What was the operation for?
Oh, it was for the heart. They were putting in a stent. No, they weren't. That's a lie. It was something about the heart, because one of the pathways was doing something, but she's got no sign of heart disease whatsoever. So then we started talking about MCAS, and it all made sense. Like she was such a, like it just sounded right, especially since her health until she was 61 was pretty much spot on.
Wow. Maybe all the disinfectants and cleaning agents that are off.
Yeah, right. Oh, hospitals are hideous, aren't they, for that sort of thing? So this next one, once again, chicken or the egg. So once the noradrenaline's being released, then the next RAS circuit is showing that the serotonin is switched off. And once again, that's also creating vigilance. But, you know, once again, when you have things like, you know, that chronic sinuses or pain or something, the body would go into vigilance pretty quickly. Yes, what are we doing? What can we do? Let's sort this out.
Quick.
Yeah, quick.
Like now.
Okay, so now I'm going into the sympathetic nervous system, and we'll work out which organs are being affected. Oh, interesting. It's an old pain and punishment circuit. Ah, no, you were really young. Really, really young. 0 to 18 months. Do you know what your birth was like?
Forceps.
Yeah, yeah, right.
So I got the umbilical cord trapped over my shoulder.
Yeah.
Pulled me out, and my mum couldn't breastfeed me because I bit too hard.
Right, so quite a few issues then. Yeah. So you can imagine even that could, like that little combination of things, that's a fairly big trauma to be hit with initially. And they are looking at traumas creating this whole MCAS as well.
Yeah, right.
Were you always a bit of a sinusy kid?
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know whether that young, but I know all through like my childhood I had ear infections galore.
Yeah, okay.
I know I must have, because I had my tonsils and adenoids out at 4.
Ah, yeah,
It
right.
was traumatic. Missed my preschool photos.
Yeah, right.
I was so distressed about that. Mum fainted on me in the hospital.
Aww.
I didn't care about that. I got back to preschool and I'd had their group photo without me. I was really distressed, clearly.
That's funny. It is a bummer though, isn't it? You don't have a record of it. So now I'm into the first organ that's showing up is the brain. So basically central meridian, so the brain has been affected. But once again, I think anything that messes with the sinuses, because the sinuses are so thin, that connection, between the sinuses and the brain, it's not that far away, yeah. And I would imagine, were your parents naturally minded when you were little?
Not that young.
No. So you can imagine with tonsils and adenoids, you'd probably been on a whole wad of antibiotics, and they can weaken tissue.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Taking milk and wheat till the cows came home.
Yeah, okay. So that's central. Yeah, because histamine building up in here is one of the biggest, they're saying that that's one of the main reasons for migraines.
Yeah, right. I'm not a headache person.
Good.
Like, it's really rare for me.
Stomach's showing up next. Hold up.
Yeah, I do get nauseous.
Hold up. Yeah, okay.
If pain gets too much, I get nauseous. I'll throw up.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I need to do some more research on histamine and really nut it out.
I also lose my appetite. Say, if I'm stressed, I lose my appetite rather than eat.
Yeah, right.
If that's got anything to do with it, the stomach.
Well, I suppose nausea, so your body's maybe just trying to protect you from nausea. Do you feel better or worse when you eat with nausea?
Depends. If I have an AC and don't eat and I get nauseous, I need to eat. So like with herbs and things like that, it just means I need to eat. But
like Sanu with her B complex. Hold up for me. Hold up. Actually, she had an activated magnesium yesterday and had a little bit of the flush, and then it calmed down. And she said, well, what's the difference between that one and the one that Georgia had me on? So we had a look, there's 3 times as much in the Dr. Vera's activated B. So I said, well, let's just start with one in the mornings.
Because it's really good.
So that was large intestine energy. And hold up.
Maybe
and hold up.
Bring her in some of the new Metagenics ones that I've got.
Yeah, right.
Have a look at how much I've got.
Small intestines is also showing up. Hold up. Yeah, right. So you got the trifecta: stomach, small intestine, large intestine. So have you had unexplained gut pain in the past? It just doesn't make a lot of sense.
Not so much gut pain, but irregular digestion.
Okay.
Yeah. Where I'm just like, what?
Yeah.
Or when I'm stressed, it speeds up.
Yeah, okay.
I'm a speed up person.
Yep.
And then,
hold.
yeah.
Hold.
When I was younger, pardon me, had an allergy test.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Hold, I'm going back.
And I'm allergic to additives and preservatives.
Yes.
And so
Hold.
I'm getting a nasty habit of wanting salt on the way home. And so if I have like a honey chicken and soy flavoured chips, I have gut pain the next day. Which kind of take it on as my own fault.
Well, that's the thing. Sometimes we just choose to have a little bit of pain.
But yeah. But I assume because of the preservatives and additives in that would be releasing some sort of histamines.
Yes. And that's the thing. If the histamine is just laying in wait, and then you have something,
And I do feel more fluidy.
Yeah,
like
okay.
Just, you know.
Hold. Hold up.
Yeah.
Hold.
Really going.
Hold. Yeah, because I wonder what other things it blocks. You know, so it's a neurotransmitter, histamine.
I've heard that, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a neurotransmitter.
It's on my grid.
Yeah, okay. So basically, it's got to be if we've got too much histamine in there, it's got to be blocking other. So then I wonder if for people with, say, depression, it might be blocking the serotonin. I'm just hypothesizing, no idea. But maybe it's messing with the serotonin.
Used to go on about that. Didn't he write about it, Henry Hoseki?
Yeah, right. Don't know. I'll have to.
Histamine. He used to say there's more than one type of histamine, and he had a product like there's pre-his, but he actually had a product with histamine in it.
So why would you want pre-his? Because that makes histamine.
Yeah, because on my chart there's people with deficiency in histamine.
Okay, cool.
And there's excess.
Okay.
And I think, and I can't remember which one it is, but one's anxiety. I think something like deficiency can cause anxiety.
Okay.
Because there's a role in neurotransmitters.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. But it's not one of the big ones.
Yeah.
It's not like dopamine or GABA or like any of that noradrenaline or all those ones.
Let's recheck that hidden deep survival and hold. Beautiful. And now I'll just quickly have a look at the foods. So the sort of symptoms are things like rashes and hives and swelling and edema, flushing, asthma, itching, abdominal pain, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, wheezing, shortness of breath, heart palpitations, anxiety, difficulty concentrating, headaches, brain fog. So you can imagine it would get mixed up with thyroid stuff occasionally as well, because that sounds quite Hashimoto-esque, low blood pressure and fatigue. So, where are we?
There was a time which I couldn't eat gluten-free bread because my throat would close over.
And what sort of gluten-free bread were you eating? Like, what was the main?
Helga's. Like, just gluten-free.
So it might have been soy or something specific, perhaps?
It wouldn't have been soy. It would have been all the starches in it. I couldn't pinpoint it.
Yeah.
But it got to the point where my throat closed over and I fainted and fell off my chair.
Yeah, right.
And it was when I was stressed it would happen. So for about a year I couldn't have gluten-free bread.
Just muscle testing through all of those foods. There's a couple of things showing up, but the two biggest ones, food colorings.
Yeah, additives.
Hold.
Yeah, we don't
Hold.
that.
Hold.
There goes the red
Hold. Not the natural ones.
I actually haven't had them for years, but
I used to have a friend who had a really bad chocolate allergy, so her throat would swell up and her eyes would turn into these skinny little, she didn't have any eyes left. And but she couldn't say no to wagon wheels.
Oh, no.
And it was in the days when wagon wheels were like this big, not like the tiny little itsy bitsy ones you get these days. And one day, and I'd never seen someone have an anaphylactic reaction, and sure enough the ambos came and she had to have the EpiPen, and
really?
and I said, why did you do it? She said, I needed a wagon wheel.
She didn't carry an EpiPen with her?
No.
Naughty.
I mean, it's 30 years ago.
Yeah, okay.
And the other one showing up is the preservatives. So preservatives.
Yeah.
So no surprise, eating clean helps a lot of that. Organic wine when you can afford it. Oh, what did I hear? Stephen Colbert, since the radiation thing in Japan in 2011, now there's a whole winery somewhere in the US that's got slight traces of radioactivity in the wine.
Oh, wow.
Of course, I saw it on Stephen Colbert, so it must be true.
Must be. Organic wine gives me headaches.
Yeah, okay. Why do you think that is?
Because it's not as good quality as a nice Pinot Noir.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's true. Just because something's organic doesn't necessarily mean
There's always a little bit. It's just
preservatives. Yeah. Oh, because something can be organic and still have preservatives in it. Because we saw it, we had some organic wine recently and they still had preservatives going on.
But don't they have different preservatives in there? Like it's not the 220?
Yeah, I can't remember, but I was surprised. I went, interesting. But once again, it was that whole thing, just because something looks natural doesn't necessarily mean it's 100% healthy. Oh, and do you go badly on yeast products?
Oh, yeah, don't like that. Yeah, I've got a limit.
So that's basically what I've been doing with histamine. So working out which histamines are the bad ones, finding out whether it's throwing the body into chaos, into a survival pattern, which it was, and you were 2, 3, and 4 with your histamines, and then checking which organs, and it was mainly the gut. Oh, hello, just a sec, I just had a thought.
That's what I do.
So let me also check in relation to excess histamines. Hold out nice and strong. So this is overall the sex organs, and that's saying it's okay, but let's specifically ask around the uterus. Hold out nice and strong. Yeah, okay. So that's why it didn't unlock, because it's not more than half of the whole system.
Yeah, right. So things like your ovaries, all the other parts are okay.
Yes. So an unlock is less than 50% functional, or less than 50% energy to an area.
So someone who wasn't
Uterus.
ovulating, you check the ovaries?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Hold out. And let's just ask in relation to the, I mean, I haven't heard that it's connected, but you know, I suppose they have to repair themselves every month.
Yeah.
They spit out an egg. Have you seen the videos of them?
It's incredible.
Oh my God. Makes you
ovary.
twitch just looking at it. Okay, so in relation to the ovaries. And again, hold. So you're more a uterus girl than an ovary girl. Okay. Beautiful.
Unless solvents and paints are involved, I'd say.
Oh, okay.
So would they release histamines?
Well, if we're having an allergic reaction to them, I'm sure we do. There we go. Our first MCAS balance.
Thank you.